Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for watching Smart 24 TV. We drive your business. Now, this is the #1 show and the #1 TV station in East Africa concerning business affairs. And we bring you content concerning companies that are trading on the stock market. We look at debt market instruments. We look at various other aspects of business only at Smart 24 TV. And we do this 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. Now, like I mentioned, on the market on Friday, we had several gainers, about 7 of them, and impressively, we had no losers this time round on the stock market here in Uganda. However, these top 7 gainers were all cross-listed from Kenya. And right now, when I have a look at these, they were led by East African Breweries Limited, who gained by about 2.06% on her share price, closing the day with a price of 4,596.89. We also had KCB Group, who gained by 1.56, coming in the second position at 1,325.96 Ugandan shillings. Nation Media Group also came in as a gainer at a 0.86% price gain, and this was closing at a 558.37 Ugandan shillings closing price. Jubilee Holdings Limited also was another gainer, who gained by 0.69% and closed the day with a price of 7,862.05. Equity Bank Limited gained by 0.61% and closed the day with a price of 1,492.19 Ugandan shillings. Kenya Airways gained by 0.28% and closed the day with a price of 122.9 Ugandan shillings. These are some of the companies that are actually cross-listed. But we have about 8 of them that are cross-listed, and 7 of these were top gainers on Friday's trades. Now, looking at East African Breweries Limited, this is one of the oldest breweries in Uganda. The company has been trading stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange for quite some time now, and it was listed on the 27th of March 2001. Matter of fact, it was the first company to cross-list on the Uganda Stock Exchange amongst all the other cross-listed companies. And the company itself is quite experienced in breweries with over 100 years of experience. Of course, constructed or co-founded in the 1900s. And right now, from around 1922 to 2022, the company is marking over 100 years of brewing some of the best drinks here in East Africa. It has 93% stake in Uganda Breweries itself, and about close to 86% of Kibo Breweries in Tanzania rather. And in Kenya, it has 100% stake in Kenya Breweries Limited. Now, the company's stock price is at 4,596, and we're looking at a current market capitalization of close to 3.64 million Ugandan shillings, and these represent about 16.7% of the total market capitalization of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity. And currently they have over 791 million shares, and the company is the 4th most valuable stock on the stock market here in Uganda. Now, it has one major competitor who is also dealing in close to what he deals in, and that's British American Tobacco Uganda, with over just about 736 billion market capitalization and the price of 15,000. So comparatively, it's doing much better in terms of affordability for the stock and in terms of market capitalization. This is East African Breweries. You can buy these shares if you want to. What you have to do is open yourself a Securities Central Depository account and get in touch with your stockbroker. They'll get you some stock in East African Breweries Limited. But at the moment, I wouldn't advise a newcomer on the stock market. If you're coming in for the first time, this could not probably not be the best way to begin. You don't want to begin with such an expensive stock and a stock that doesn't offer much liquidity as well. So you would rather invest in much more liquid companies like MTN, Cipla, and other domestic companies that have much more activity, because this company definitely, much as it's a gainer here, very little activity has been witnessed, or actually no activity has been witnessed in this company since I think last year. So you don't want to put that money at risk in such circumstances. But of course, if you're investing for the long term, always the door is open for the long-term investors. We never know what could happen to the stock of East African Breweries Limited tomorrow as well. Away from East African Breweries, Kenya Commercial Bank was another top gainer. Now, KCB is a subsidiary of Kenyan-based KCB Holdings. This is Kenya Commercial Bank. Of course, it's a financial institution, one of the well-established financial institutions, and the company is currently the third most valuable on the stock market in Uganda in as far as market capitalization is concerned, with a total of close to 3.96 trillion Ugandan shillings, and this represents 18.2% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. Now, KCB is another financial institution. Stanbic is another one. When you're looking at stock performances and you want to invest in a particular sector, you put all the players within the sector on one weighing scale. So let's first put this bank on the scale of, let's talk about market capitalization. Well, it's doing much better than many other commercial banks, except I think Equity Bank Limited, who comes as the most valuable with a market capitalization of close to over 5 trillion Ugandan shillings. But KCB, with a much smaller capitalization, has probably much more activity, though recently we haven't seen much activity on the company. In terms of affordability, I would still not go for KCB. I would rather go for Stanbic, who is much cheaper at only 21 or 20 shillings at the moment. This stock is currently 1,325. That is one single stock for KCB Group. Now, compared to the 20 shillings of Stanbic, I think I would have a much better deal on Stanbic in terms of pricing. When you look at in terms of year to date, the company started the year with a price of 1,414.32 Ugandan shillings, and has since then lost about 6.25% and is ranked the 8th in terms of year-to-date performance. Well, that is much better than Stanbic, but still, because Stanbic has a much cheaper stock, much more affordable stock, if I can say, I would still close an eye for the year-to-date performance. Usually, year-to-date performance is more critical when analyzing, for example, the whole year, or for example in December. But things do change, things do change for companies. Much as the company could be lucky to begin with a very poor price on the first day of January, but maybe, the company actually picks up very quickly the next day, and we forget entirely about the year to date. But when you look at the entire company's performance here, you look at also the stock affordability versus the activity, and also versus what the company has to offer in terms of pricing. So the company hasn't also been able to have activity in the last few months, and when you look at within the last 1 year, the company had about only 296 shares that were traded. That is contrary to other banks like Stanbic Bank and I think, yes, Bank of Baroda, Uganda, which is one of the most traded on stocks in the last couple of months. So a lot is still yet to be done by KCB for us to be convinced. But I can say that if you're still investing for the longer term, please go ahead. It's no harm and nothing should stop you from investing because we never know. No one ever knows 100% what will happen to a particular stock in the time to come. And of course, we have different reasons for investing in different companies. So you could be interested, and this is one option for you to analyze. But in terms of 1 week, the company has appreciated by 7.25%. In terms of 4 weeks, it has appreciated by a smaller margin of 2.15%. And in 3 months, it has appreciated by over 11%, which is quite a good performance. 1 year ago, the company has lost 11.8% since then. And in terms of year to date, like we've mentioned, it has lost about only 6.25%. That is KCB Group for you. KCB just changed leadership from Mr. Joshua Oigara, who was the CEO for over 9 years, to Mr. Paul Russo, who came in as well to take the company to the next level. Probably we're looking forward to a much better performance next quarter and in the next couple of years for KCB. Putting KCB aside, of course, time is fast spent. We have to move really quickly. We had Nation Media Group. Nothing much, pretty much to say about Nation Media Group, except the fact that the company gained about 0.86% on its stock price and closed the day with a price of 558.37, and that was a 4.77 shillings gain on the stock market there on Friday. However, the company didn't have any activity, and currently the company's stock is valued at 105 billion, which is about 0.4485% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. This company is the 14th most valuable in as far as market capitalization is concerned, but not much activity has been registered on this stock, on this particular stock. It has one major competitor, who is New Vision Printing and Publishing Company, with over 11.9 billion shillings worth of market capitalization and a price of 155, which is closer to almost much more affordable than the 500 shillings. I mean, you'd rather part with 150 shillings rather than 500 shillings. So New Vision still comes in as a better option for in terms of affordability, with much more affordable stock. However, it has a much smaller market capitalization. Now, away from all those several companies there, we had Jubilee Holdings, who gained 0.69%. Same story, no movement in price, no movement in terms of shares being sold out, but rather a movement was registered in the price. Factors entirely outside the demand and supply. Now, let's look at the top movers. When we talk about the top movers, for starters, we are talking about those who traded the bigger volumes. And this is where I want you to pay even closer attention, because you must have a company being active on the stock market. It doesn't matter how good a company's price is doing without activity. Well, sometimes it does, but in most cases, you must have definitely a higher reason for you to invest in such a company. Maybe a dividend you're looking forward to, maybe in the long run you're seeing that the company could actually become more active, and then you could be able to get to sell the stock on a capital gain. But generally speaking, I would never advocate for buying stock in a company that is not active. That is not something I would personally advocate for. However, now we look at top movers usually to give you some of these companies that have been able to influence the markets in terms of volumes, in terms of selling out their shares, in terms of what are people thinking. Because Like I said, stock is determined by you, the public, by what you think is going to be the next big company. Sometimes it might be wrong. It's entirely something subjective. You don't. It's up to you. So sometimes it's important to know where people's interests are. Usually, that's where the bone of contention is. That's where you must pay attention and see why are people buying this particular stock during this particular period of time. Now, when you look at, let's have a look at the Umeme stock. Umeme is a company in charge of distribution, supply of electricity in Uganda. They are the number one company that, of course, had the biggest turnover for the first and second quarter. We are yet to know about the reports from the Capital Markets Authority on the performances of the third quarter. But in as far as the first and second quarter is concerned, the company was the top mover in terms of the turnover as well as in terms of volume. And when you look at the company's experience on the stock market, it's not quite old, just 10 years. The company has been listed since 2012, the 30th of November. That's when it was listed for the very first time. And the company's market capitalization currently is 325 billion, which is about 1.5% of the entire Uganda Securities Exchange equity market. And the company is the 10th most valuable on the stock market here in Uganda at the moment. Looking at the company's shares outstanding, they currently have close to 1.62 billion shares. And these are shares worth 200 shillings at the moment. Currently, the price is 200 shillings to be able to buy a stock in Umeme. And closing the day on Friday, we had still the same price at 200 shillings. And now, when you look at the beginning of the year, the company began with close to 189 Ugandan shillings per share on the stock market in Uganda. And currently at 200 shillings, the company has gained about 5.82%. And in terms of year to date, it is ranked the third on the stock exchange. So for the volumes, yes, it's doing good, but also the appreciation in price is quite good at the moment. Looking at the year to date performance, having over about 5.82%, that is quite something to reckon. However, when you look at their current performance in terms of 3 months, they have still lost some value, about close to 16.3%. No value has been lost in a month. For over the past 4 weeks, they have been trading still at 200 shillings. At least the stock has been able to maintain that price in terms of the last 4 weeks. But as I've said, in terms of year to date, they're doing quite well with a 5.82% price appreciation. Now, in terms of volumes, this company is the fourth most traded on company on the Uganda Securities Exchange over the past 3 months. And within this period, the company has traded a total volume of close to 14 million shares that are valued at 2.79 billion Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of about close to 222,800 shares that are traded per trading session. And they have had also a volume high of close to 8.13 million shares that was traded on the 23rd of August within this period. Umeme is not only active or actually moving the Ugandan market, but even on the Nairobi market where it is cross-listed, the company is doing quite well. And this is because of the fact that it has quite many foreign investors that are interested in this stock. Being a utility service company, definitely people have hope that despite the tough economic times, despite whatever will happen to any other company, it will still make money because, people will need electricity, people will need water, which is generated, of course, which is pumped by electricity. People will need food, which is sometimes cooked using electricity. So because of all these factors, we see that companies like Umeme have become some of the all-time favorite companies for various investors coming into the stock market. And I would advise the same, really. Although, of course, you need to be able to diversify and be able to trade in some other companies that could maybe not be at the same level as Umeme. And that is Umeme stock for you. The company has been active for the last couple of days, and in last week it had trading on the 29th, on the 27th, on the 22nd, on the 21st, 20th, meaning they have a frequent kind of market activity that we are probably interested in as investors. That is it. Winding up the business here on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Like I said, we had Uganda Clays, was also another top mover. We had Cipla, Quality Chemical Industries, Pharmaceutical, which is the only pharmaceutical industry that is listed. We had Stanbic Bank Uganda, and also, yes, those are the top 5 movers who actually moved the market on Friday. Now, regarding the summary here at the end of the trading session, we had close to 307,264 shares that were traded on the stock market, corresponding to a market value of over 35.5 million Ugandan shillings. Compared with the previous day, the data shows an 83% improvement in the volume, a 531% improvement in the turnover, probably definitely due to the Umeme turnover that was witnessed on the stock market there. And the current market capitalization for the Uganda Securities Exchange is 21.7 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, regarding the performance of the USE market indices, the benchmark index, that is the all-share index, moved up by 10.01 points, and that was a 0.81% appreciation in points, and closing the day with about 1,263.28 points, representing a one-week gain. We are still on a one-week gain of 5.32% and a four-week loss of 1.15%, which is quite smaller, whereas an overall year-to-date of a loss of about 11.08%. The local company index, the LCI, maintained its value at 271.39 points, making it a one-week loss of 0.4% and a four-week loss of 0.59% and a year-to-date loss of 16.41%. We have other companies that are traded on the stock market here in Uganda, including British American Tobacco with a price of 15,000. We also have Bank of Baroda at 85 shillings. Centum Investment maintained 310 shillings. We have Cipla at 65 shillings, of course, after a decline from 70 now to 65. We have DFCU, Development Finance Company of Uganda, at 547 shillings. We also have East African Breweries Limited at 4,596. Kenya Airways at 122.9, and National Insurance Corporation at 5.8, whereas Nation Media Group at 558. Uganda Clays is at 15 shillings, and Umeme is at 200, whereas Stanbic Bank is at 21.0 shillings, and a couple of others that are listed. 18 of these are there for you to buy stock in, and that is, of course, bringing us to the end of the summary of trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange. Remember, the exchange is almost making 25 years, and you haven't bought shares. How shameful of you. Please make an effort to put money in our companies here, because this is the way to go. Other developed countries, we talk about the United States, this is the big thing. You know, the stock market tells us how the economy of the United States is doing. If the stock markets are doing bad, this definitely the economy is not healthy, because this is how much importance they have attached to stock markets. Thank you very much for staying with us. You're still watching Financial Markets. My name is Anthony. We are taking a quick breather. We return with the Kenyan market. Stay with us.